When we hear the words Order of the Dragon, I mean, let's be honest, our minds usually jump straight to gothic horror, right? We think of vampires, dark fantasy, maybe an intense role-playing game. But today, in this explainer, we are completely stripping away that myth. We're going to dig into the grounded, gritty reality of this legendary society, exactly why it was forged in the first place, and look at the real historical heavyweights who actually wore its emblem. So if you've ever played The Elder Scrolls, or Age of Empires 4, or even if you just vaguely know the origins of the Dracula story, you are already familiar with the Order of the Dragon. But what actually ties these massive pop culture touchstones to, of all things, a 15th century Serbian despot? Well, the answer lies in a very real, very desperate military alliance. You see, in our modern media, these knights are usually portrayed as these shadowy vampire hunters or fantasy bodyguards. But historically, the actual Order of the Dragon, or the Societas Draconistrarum, was founded in 1408 with an incredibly pragmatic, incredibly urgent mission. Their goal was to secure European borders against the rapid expansion of the Ottoman Empire. So this wasn't some fantasy side quest. This was a matter of literal survival. To really grasp why this order even needed to exist, we have to zoom out and look at the massive geopolitical crisis of the era. Emperor Sigismund, who was the king of Hungary and later the Holy Roman Emperor, was reeling from some absolutely massive military defeats. He was staring down an expanding Ottoman Empire to the south, and he urgently needed reliable allies. He needed a defensive bulwark in the Balkans, basically a wall of fiercely loyal knights who could just hold the line. And things escalated incredibly fast. In 1396, Emperor Sigismund suffered a totally crushing defeat at the Crusade of Nicopolis. Realizing there was absolutely no way he could hold the borders alone, he had to pivot. So in 1403, he forms this highly strategic defensive alliance with Despot Stefan Lazarević of Serbia, literally handing him the city of Belgrade. Following a victory at Dobor a few years later, Sigismund officially founded the Order of the Dragon in 1408 to lock in this crucial network of political allies. That 1403 alliance is actually what laid the groundwork for the order's absolute most important figure, Despot Stefan Lazarević. Now, when Sigismund formalized this very exclusive personal order of knights, it was made up of 22 original members. We're talking the most important European monarchs and military leaders alive. But Stefan wasn't just another name on the roster. Because of his sheer military brilliance and his strategic location, he was actually named first among equals. He was, for all intents and purposes, the premier knight of the entire order. And listen, Stefan's top-tier status wasn't just political flattery. The guy earned it. Stefan commanded an elite heavy cavalry that was utterly feared across the region. He took the city of Belgrade that Sigismund gave him back in 1403 and completely transformed it into this massive, heavily fortified hub. And right up until his death in 1427, he served as an unshakably loyal vassal to the king. By keeping Stefan so close, Sigismund actually succeeded in securing his southern borders. So Stefan's membership wasn't just an honor, it became the vital mechanism for the survival of the Serbian state and the broader European defense. Okay, so if you really want to get into the heads of these elite knights, you just have to look at the official insignia they wore right over their armor. If you were lucky enough to be inducted into the Order of the Dragon, you were granted a very specific metallic pendant. The core imagery here is fascinating. It's a strangled dragon, curled into a tight circle, actively biting its own tail. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what their religious mission was. See, the dragon wasn't a symbol of the knights themselves. No, the strangled dragon represented evil, specifically the enemies of Christianity, literally destroying itself. And resting right on the back of this defeated, choking beast was a red patriarchal cross. It was essentially a visual manifesto that they wore right on their chests, the cross of their faith actively crushing the evil dragon of the Ottoman threat. And we absolutely have to mention how this powerful symbolism eventually birthed one of our biggest modern legends. Back in 1431, a ruler named Vlad II of Wallachia was inducted into the order. He was so incredibly proud of this that he adopted the name Dracul, which literally means the dragon. Naturally, when he had a son, Vlad III, the kid inherited the name Dracula, or son of the dragon. So yes, Vlad the Impaler, the literal inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula, got his world-famous moniker directly from his father's membership in this very real, historical order. But returning to our main protagonist, Despot Stefan Lazarević wanted absolutely everyone to know his supreme premier rank in the order. To flex this status, he took his traditional family coat of arms, which was originally just a silver double-headed eagle on a red field, and modified it. Stefan took that crest and wrapped a massive, coiled, green and gold dragon completely around the outside border of the shield. It is just an unbelievable piece of heraldic fusion. Which is a great reminder that back in the 15th century, a coat of arms wasn't just some pretty decorative picture. It was literally the political PR of its day. Compilers of these medieval armorials, like Ulrich Richthofen, used these books deliberately. They were used to publicly elevate the heroes of the realm, and conversely, to publicly punish its enemies. And we can see exactly how weaponized these images truly were. Compare Stefan, the loyal first knight who earned that glorious dragon wrapped around his eagle, to someone like Hrojve Vukšić, the Duke of Split. In 1415, the Ottomans completely crushed the Hungarian army in Bosnia, and Hrojve was suspected of secretly allying with them. So, denounced as a traitor and a pagan, the armorial compilers actually stripped him of his real arms. Instead, they assigned him a totally fictitious, bizarre new symbol. Literally just two crossed branches with Moorish heads. So you have to think of these crests as a deliberate, legible political language that entire kingdoms understood. When you flipped through an armorial back then, you knew instantly who was in the emperor's good graces, like Stefan with his epic dragon insignia, and who was denounced as a traitor, visually branded as exotic and dangerous. It's a massive, beautiful heraldic puzzle of loyalty and treason. But here is where things get kind of funny, because when we look at these complex medieval symbols through a modern lens, they get so easily misinterpreted. If you spend enough time poking around internet conspiracy circles today, you'll inevitably find claims that European eagles, like the ones on the Holy Roman Empire crests or Stefan Lazarević's hybrid crests, are actually disguised dragons. People point to these old stylized drawings and go, look, that's not an eagle, that's clearly a reptile. But this whole disguised dragon theory, it is based entirely on a massive visual misunderstanding. Actually, in late medieval German art, there was just this very specific stylistic trend for drawing the imperial eagle. The artists stylized them with these long, snaking necks and leathery, ribbed wings that, honestly look a lot more like bat wings than actual bird feathers. But it was just an artistic choice. Because of that style, an ordinary double-headed eagle ended up looking suspiciously like twin dragons to our modern eyes. It's honestly a fascinating reminder of how easily a total misunderstanding of medieval aesthetics can spawn persistent misinformation today. What was literally just an artistic flourish in 15th century Germany, just a cool way to make an eagle look fierce and dynamic, gets completely twisted centuries later into this wild secret society conspiracy theory on the internet. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. When we look past the video game protectors and the Hollywood vampire lore, we find real men like Despot Stefan Lazarević, a brilliant commander, building a literal fortress against an expanding empire, proudly wearing a strangled dragon on his chest as a symbol of absolute defiance. So ask yourself, is the true historical context of the Order of the Dragon, a desperate medieval alliance written in blood and heraldry, actually way more epic than the fiction it inspired? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it completely changes how you look at the dragons of the past.